Hey guys, D2 here with episode 2 of Series Analysis, where I analyze high-level professional Hearthstone matches. Series Analysis, by the way, is a title that I'm not completely in love with. It's basically a placeholder for now, so if you guys have better ideas for a title, then leave them down below in the comments, and I'll definitely take a look at them. A few things I want to announce / point out before I move on. The first is that I have purchased a new microphone. So if it sounds better to you, then awesome. If not, then I'm sorry. The second thing I want to say / point out, what you've probably already noticed by now, is that these are going to be in several parts from now on, both for my sake and for yours. For my sake, because it gets tiring to do everything in one take, and my analysis maybe wanes toward the end because of that fatigue. And for your sake, so that you don't have to watch everything all at the same time, you can come back, watch part 2, watch part 3 later on, and hopefully that will make it easier for you to watch. And the last thing is that from now on, I will likely be streaming these series analysis thingies on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/d2hs. The first couple of days were kind of a practice run, but I think I'm ready to make it go live. In any case, the match that I've decided to analyze today is between Archon's Firebat and Team Solomon's Trump, two of the biggest names in the game. Firebat obviously being the reigning world champion, and Trump having one of the biggest streams out there, himself being a very popular personality / player / everything, essentially. And this game was from the semifinals of the One Nation of Gamers Summer Circuit Feature Tournament number 3, as you can see on the top there. And even though this is with the semifinals, the person who advanced from the other side of the draw, Sukipan, was unable to attend PAX. So the winner of this actually gets to qualify for that and get some money, get some World Championship points. So a very, very important match here. One thing that Monk, one of the casters there, pointed out in the initial broadcast. By the way, the initial broadcast you can watch on One Nation of Gamers YouTube channel or the Twitch channel. I will link both in the description below. Anyway, what I was going to say is that what Monk pointed out was that all of these decks were brought before they were in their group stages when they played a best of 5 conquest. So for instance, Firebat's Priest was not played in that situation, but he had to play it in this best of 7 format, and it didn't work out very well. Well, I should say, going into the match, the lineup choice of bringing Priest didn't end up working out very well for him because Trump had Handlock in his lineup. Had it been Zoo, it would have worked out much better for Firebat, at least in the lineup choices. We will get to the games later. Speaking of decks, let's just go through them. Firebat brought the Face Hunter, as well as the Priest, and Freeze Mage, and lastly Patron Warrior, whereas Trump brought a pretty greedy mid-range Druid, as well as Hybrid Hunter, Handlock as mentioned before, and Patron Warrior. And going to this, Firebat mentioned to the casters that he felt that his lineup was unfavored against Trump's. And you can see why, because of the Priest and because of the Freeze Mage. In particular, the Freeze Mage doesn't do well against basically any of Trump's decks. You would think that it would do okay against some of them, but the fact that it was Hybrid Hunter and had things like High Mane, things like Lothab, things like the Stranglethorn Tiger in Trump's deck makes it very, very favored against Freeze Mage, as well as the Greedy Druid, I think with Rag in it, makes it very, very favored. And Handlock used to be kind of an even-ish match, but the addition of Double Healbot as well as the Lothab kind of shuts it down, despite the addition of Thorson nowadays. So, in addition, the Priest doesn't do very well against Trump's lineup as well, does pretty bad against both Handlock and Patron Warrior, does decently against the Hybrid Hunter, and does okay against the Druid. But, looking at that situation, not the best odds. Patron Warrior and Face Hunter do okay. But, yeah, looking through these deck choices, basically Firebat's decks either do okay or badly, and Trump's decks either do okay or well, which definitely favors Trump. But Firebat's the world champion for a reason. He can make very, very good in-game decisions to his advantage. So, it was still anyone's game going into this match. So looking at their decks, we can try to theorize what they would bring as their first deck. Initially, in the Conquest format, people like to bring the worst deck out first, so that it wasn't left with an unfavored matchup in the end. But people realize pretty quickly that it's probably best to bring your best deck to the first match and try to get a win there, so they don't fall behind in a hole and have to win, 3 games in a row or 4 games in a row. And in that case, even if your worst deck is left last, if you can get a lead, then your worst deck has the most chances against a lot of decks. And these days, you won't see any decks that are 95-5 favored, like the old Control Warrior versus the old Freeze Mage. So you're basically going to get at least a 30% chance, 30 to 40% chance against a few decks. And if you have 3 to 4 chances, then you're probably actually favored at that moment. So that all said, the point of all that was to say that people wanted to bring, Firebat and Trump wanted to bring their best deck in this first match. And for Firebat, he chose to go with Patron Warrior because it does decently versus all of Trump's decks. Even against the Handlock, it has the possibility of winning, whereas some of his decks are pretty unfavored against a lot of Trump's decks. So on the other hand, Trump decided to go with Patron Warrior as well for similar reasons, mostly because Patron Warrior is either favored or even against all of Firebat's decks, whereas the rest of his Trump's decks maybe have some, disadvantages, some weaknesses. So they both decided to go with Patron Warrior, and let's jump into the first game here, if I can find it. All right, here we go. So the first thing that you'll obviously notice is that Firebat actually has a Lothab in his Patron Warrior deck, which is very, very interesting. And it's kind of akin to putting Lothab in something like a Miracle Rogue deck, or the current Oil Rogue deck. Although it wasn't the Miracle Rogue deck, but what it does is that since it's a combo deck, you need to have time to set up your combos, right? And what Lothab does, it kind of stalls out your opponent and alleviate some of the pressure put on you against certain decks in certain situations. So I kind of like the addition of Lothab. It can work out a lot, especially in Patron versus Patron Mirror. Kind of works as the opposite of Brawl. Brawl being able to clean up patrons, while Lothab stops the patrons from going on the board in the first place. We see Trump put down the Unstable Ghoul before going somewhere and then coming back. And the purpose of this is that he wants to allow his Acolyte of Pain to draw several cards. And he feels that drawing cards is a little bit more important than having this Unstable Ghoul at the moment. In particular, the person who gets out the 4 patrons onto the board first usually wins this matchup. So he feels that he can play this out right now, and it's several turns before Firebat can make use of that Unstable Ghoul for his own good. For instance, if you play Unstable later in the game, it can allow your opponent to get one more Whirlwind and allow him to spawn his own patrons, or build his Frothing Berserker and basically just kill you. So, decent play by Trump. He also obviously doesn't want to be armoring up because of future battle rages. And Firebat responds by going with the Acolyte of Pain, reasoning that if Trump's going to get some draws, then he wants his own draws. And fortunately for Trump, he has the Fire Warlocks to shut that off, limiting him to 1 card. And keeping his Unstable Ghoul alive. He also elects not to attack to prevent Firebat from going into Battle Rage range. He figured that if Firebat had a Fire Warlocks, he would have used it last turn. And since he didn't, then he probably has no real way to deal with this via weapons, which means that he's not going to take damage anyway, so Trump is safe. Firebat goes with an interesting play here. The slam was not... is pretty normal because you want to be cycling for cards anyway, but the execute is really smart because it prevents Trump from drawing cards in the future. And if you can set off the card draw now, then maybe you can prevent Trump from ever actually drawing the ability to get his first patrons off in the first place. And also, this basically sets up perfectly for Firebat's next few turns. He's looking at his curve, and what he saw was, I'll pause it for a second now. What he saw was Despite into Lothab to prevent Trump from really doing anything at all. And from there, going into setting off his Despite with his Patron and Whirlwind. So he's thinking a few turns ahead here, and executing that unstable goal allows him free reign to be able to pull off the kind of plays that he wants to pull off. Trump goes ahead and plays out his Acolyte and cycles his Slam as well, just trying to get as many cards out as possible. And here we're going to see Firebat just play out the Loatheb and basically shut down everything that Trump has available to him. So Trump can take care of this, but it requires a Despite and basically his entire turn, which prevents really Trump from being able to respond to what Firebat has coming next, which is obviously the Patron multiplying into 4 of them, which is pretty scary. And it also prevents Trump from really playing Emperor Thorson here, because it just provides a free kill for Firebat onto that Thorson. And Trump really just wants to have that Thorson later for potential lethal combos, to enable the potential lethal combos later in the game. One way to come back from your opponent putting a lot of patrons on the board is to simply play Emperor Thorson with a bunch of OTK combos, and or OTK pieces, and you just basically come back and kill your opponent because of so many patrons being on the board. The frothings get huge. Trump elects to go with the Execute there, which is fine. You're not going to get much better of an Execute target, although in this case it kind of bit him in the butt a bit. He's able to get rid of one of these via Slam. Part of the reason why Trump did that, by the way, is that he didn't want his Despite to get Harrison Jones right away. It would be kind of a sad thing, obviously, if that happened. So he liked to go with the Execute, especially because you can get via those Fire Warlocks killing one of these patrons, if that's the case, on the following turn anyway. Also, if you attack something with Despite, with the second chart of Despite, it will just cost more patrons. So in this case, Fire Warlocks is just all around better. Perhaps Trump saw the situation coming anyway. So Trump is stuck with a really awkward turn, which is often the case when you see the patrons spawn like this from one patron against the other, unless the other patron player has teched in Brawl and has drawn it as well. So Trump, we're just going to see him Slam, Armor Up. He kind of ropes his turn as well. I mean, it's kind of hard to figure out what to do. He ends up Battle Raging a turn later, so it kind of hurt him that he didn't Battle Rage now and save some of his mana for future turns. But, I mean, obviously it's a pretty hard turn to decide, because you're deciding not only what to do now, but what to do in the future. So he gets rid of a couple of them. The fact that Firebat used 2 Whirlwinds means that it's not completely likely that he has a way to propagate these patrons even further. And if that were the case, then Trump could clean up the next turn with Despite. So, pretty heads-up play by Trump. I mean, not totally heads-up, it's somewhat obvious, but definitely a good play overall to just try to limit the stuff on the board and not go too crazy with trying to eliminate stuff on, from his opponent's side. So, Firebat decides to go digging for ways to propagate these, and he finds one. And one thing I like about this turn is that after he is able to find a way to increase his board, he goes for the weapon and immediately starts attacking face. And what this allows him to do is put so much pressure on Trump that Trump has little recourse in the way of finding an OTK to OTK Firebat back. You could make the argument, or you could try to think about maybe armoring up in order to prevent an OTK the other way, but this is much better. Limiting your opponent's time is much better than just armoring up for a couple points, which likely won't make the difference in the end. So Trump has no choice but to kind of go digging for more cards, and he's able to eliminate one of the patrons, the one with the more health that can propagate potentially more. In this situation, he's facing down 11 damage, but if Firebat has War Song with any creature at all, he's dead. Lots of things just kill him. So Trump, feeling the pressure, decides to just go ahead and Inner Rage. Firebat on this turn, realizing he's close to victory, and in particular picking up that Unstable Goal, he knows he can go War Song into Unstable Goal into Frothing if Trump ever plays anything at all, and will likely be able to pick up the win. So this turn, he decides to just play the Acolyte of Pain and Armor Up. He could have played potentially the Armor Smith, but it could enable some combos for Trump, maybe. And additional combos for Trump, whereas the Acolyte Pain, even if it did, it's only one extra patron. It's only one extra minion in the field for things like frothing. So what it does is the worst case scenario, it enables some combos, but allows you to draw cards as well, which is what you want. So he just goes ahead and puts a lot of pressure. Attacking there is kind of important. One, because he could pick up another weapon. And the other, because this prevents Trump from attacking into that Grim Patron without first armoring up, which takes 2 of his mana, which is obviously a pretty annoying situation for Trump to be in. And so this prevents Trump from ever playing Emperor Thorson. He has to play extremely defensive here. I forgot what he goes with. I think he goes for... I know he goes for Armor Smith and Unstable Ghoul. I think that might be it, actually. But in any case, it's almost impossible for him to get out of this mess. In particular, because of what's in Firebat's hand. Trump thinks about for a little bit. I can't remember exactly what this play ends up being, but because the game is pretty much over at this point. But going over this game again, I guess while Trump thinks, it just shows the power of certain tech cards like Firebat teching in at Lothab and it having a lot of value in this situation. Allows him to have a turn 5 play, even without having the Grim Patron plus Inner Rage. And it basically set up the rest of the game perfectly for him because it slowed down Trump for that one turn. So yeah, Trump basically has to go down to 1 because otherwise that patron would propagate even more. It would make another guy, which makes 2 more guys, which would eventually just kill Trump. And Firebat has several ways to have lethal here. Instantly, he goes for the one that actually does the most damage, which is kind of funny. Going with the Frothing Berserker and getting the extra damage off with the with both the Unstable Ghoul, or by attacking with the Armor Smith and the Acolyte Pin. So that's game 1. Firebat takes the Patron Mirror, and go ahead and click to part 2 to watch the next couple of matches.